In Washington in 1983, a group of protesters are in front of the Grad Hotel demanding for the South Korean president to be removed from his position and sent to trial for being a dictator. There's a whole operation going on to protect the president from any dangers, led by the head of the Foreign Intelligence Unit Pyong-ho and the head of the Domestic Intelligence Unit Young-do. But they can't break the protest because they don't have permission. Reporter Kang is also around trying to get an interview, so Pyong-ho's assistant Ju Kyung takes him away to keep him distracted. Meanwhile, Director of Intelligence Ahn is having a meeting with the East Asia CIA director, who blames the South Korean president for the mess outside, but Ahn defends his leader because he's amending the constitution. At that moment, the CIA agents receive some intel revealing the presence of a sniper waiting to kill the president hiding in the theater across the street. The car with the president is immediately stopped and the agents enter the theater to go after the sniper, who is already running away. A chase begins through the theater and both sides open fire, which causes the loss of many agents. Pyong-ho also gets hurt when the sniper throws a grenade, but it isn't enough to stop him, so he goes after the sniper and jumps on him to fight him, only to end up as the sniper's hostage. Pyong-ho wants the other agents to catch the man alive, but Young-do comes forward and kills the sniper, blaming this result on Pyong-ho for getting caught. In South Korea, the streets are taken over by protesters as well. And when the police try to stop them, they use tear gas and violence. The protesters try to hide in nearby buildings, and most people begin locking their doors. But Pyong-ho's protege Yoo Jong wants to help and opens the gate so people can enter. Unfortunately, the plan doesn't work and everyone ends up arrested anyway. When Pyong-ho comes home and hears about what happened, he calls the police station and uses his power to get Yoo Jong free. Then he goes to pick her up only to discover she's bringing a bunch of young protesters with her to feed them. Pyong-ho disapproves of the company she keeps, but since Yoo Jong doesn't care, Pyong-ho leaves her money for her expenses and leaves with a huff. The next day, Director Ahn calls Pyong-ho and Young-do to share the next mission. The president is angry because they couldn't find out who was behind the incident, so now they need to work together and get answers. The main suspect is Professor Shin from the Washington delegation, who they believe to be Dong Lim, the leader of a North Korean espionage cell. Then, Ahn shows them the president's itinerary for his Japan visit, and both agents must sign off on it. Afterward, Young-do interrogates Professor Shin using extreme violence, but Shin swears he isn't any kind of spy. Meanwhile, a mysterious man on a bicycle picks up a shirt from a laundry shop and uses a special code to read the information stitched on the seams. This is the way the real Dong Lim has been secretly sending intel from inside the house. In the evening, Young-do invites Pyong-ho to have dinner at his apartment, and things get awkward when Pyong-ho's wife says she thought they were close friends when actually they barely stand each other. In fact, Young-do interrogated Pyong-ho so harshly in a past mission that Pyong-ho's hand couldn't move for a long while. Later, Pyong-ho gets an urgent call with important information. The North and Japan are having unofficial talks on colonial reparations, and a high-ranking official known as Professor Pyo wants to defect. The prize would be a nuclear reactor blueprint, R&D files, and a list of researchers. Pyong-ho immediately sends orders to find the man before Japan or Dong Lim does. Sometime later, the agents get in contact with Pyo, who asks for protection for him and his family in exchange for information on the real Dong Lim. At first he doesn't want to share over the phone because he knows Dong Lim works as a mole in the agency. But then he decides to offer a little information to prove himself. Spec Ops 417 will infiltrate the North to gather nuclear intel. The agents try to stop their units from going there, but it's too late. The information had already been filtered and the unit gets killed. This proves there truly is a mole in the agency. Later in Tokyo, the agents are keeping an eye on Professor Pyo, who carries a suitcase with all the information they need. They find him surrounded by North Korean intelligence agents, so Pyong-ho orders Agent Yang to keep an eye on Pyo's family while he goes after Pyo himself. Yang ignores these orders and goes after Pyo because he's under secret orders from Director Ahn, who thinks getting information on Dong Lim is their top priority and getting it will get them a promotion. While Pyong-ho rescues Pyo's family, Yang asks Pyo for information on Dong Lim's identity, otherwise he won't rescue him. Pyo gives the dates and locations Dong Lim met with some Chief Lee. Now the agents just need to cross-reference that info with their flight logs. Yang allows Pyo to enter the car now and drives away. At the same time, the North Korean agents see them and open fire. The enemy manages to pull Pyo out of the car and kill him. Afterward, both agencies meet in the middle of the street for a vicious gunfight. When Pyong-ho hears Yang and Pyo got caught in the scene, he kicks Pyo's family out of the van and drives back to rescue his men and take them to safety, although Yang ends up in a coma. A few days later, Pyong-ho returns to the agency building and is scolded by Director Ahn for failing every operation. Pyong-ho snaps and reminds An they lost a unit because of his bad judgment and Yang acted on contradicting orders. He also reveals he knows An has been taking bribes and has proof. An tries to attack Pyong-ho to shut him up, but Pyong-ho doesn't hesitate to hit him and ask him to quit or he'll go to the president with this information. In the evening, Pyong-ho finds Yu Jong hanging out with the protesters again, and he has to rescue her when the guys start a fight over politics. Pyong-ho scolds her again for the company she keeps, and Yu Jong replies he isn't any better for working for a corrupt government agency. This makes Pyong-ho remember how 3 years ago, he lost his partner during a mission when they got caught in gunfire. Before dying, the man had confessed his true mission was to take care of Yu Jong, and later during his funeral, the girl showed up calling the dead agent father. Since then, Pyong-ho has been keeping an eye on Yu Jong. A few days later, a new director takes over the agency and announces special rewards for anyone that manages to get intel on North Korean spies so they can't ruin their plans anymore. The interrogations in prison get much more violent, but Young-do feels like they're going nowhere with this. When he returns home, he can't help having nightmares about his time in the military and the violence he was forced to spread back then. The next day, the new director talks to Young-do and gives him permission sent by the president to interrogate agents in order to find the mole. Young-do immediately starts interrogating all the agents from the Foreign Intelligence Unit, because the information points in that direction. And when Pyong-ho hears about it, information to North Korea using a different code. Sometime later, Ju Kyung informs Pyong-ho that Jupiter's military transactions went up by 600% in 2 years, and Young-do's closely involved with the organization. To make matters worse, Young-do's investigation of the mole is expanding, and he'll want to interrogate Pyong-ho soon. For now, Pyong-ho concentrates on Jupiter, and he takes his men to raid the company for misappropriating money and confirm the CEO is an old army friend of Young-do's. Speaking of Young-do, he's informed that the Japan summit is cancelled because of the laundry incident, but the president's Asia tour will proceed. If the enemy knew about the Japan summit is because the mole is a very high-ranking officer, and when Young-do hears Pyong-ho has been digging out dirt on him, he sends some of his men to put 24/7 surveillance on him. Sometime later, while the enemy gets to hear that the president's Japan summit has been cancelled, Pyong-ho meets with Yu Jong for dinner because she wants to ask him for a favor. Some of her freedom fighter friends are in prison, and she wants him to use his power to free them. Pyong-ho hates that he was called for this and leaves without helping the girl, leaving Yu Jong alone and open for Young-do's men to arrest her. In the agency, Young-do and his men interrogate Yu Jong with the usual violence and keep bringing up the fact Yu Jong is a North Korean that entered the South under a new name. There are pictures of her near a North Korean Labor Party's special facility where they train spies like Bo-san, and there's no proof that the dead agent was actually her father. The interrogation is suddenly interrupted by Pyong-ho, who is furious over being investigated and having his protege captured, so Young-do responds by presenting the pictures with the evidence. Seeing himself cornered, Pyong-ho pretends to be mad at Yu Jong for lying to him, but when he turns around, he tells the girl to play along until he finds a way to rescue her. On his way out, Pyong-ho sees how badly they're hurting a man for information, and beats up the agent in frustration. Sometime later, Agent Yang finally wakes up mentioning Dong Lim met with Chief Lee, and Young-do immediately sends him to a new room with stronger security. Pyong-ho's and Young-do's teams run to see who gets there first, and while they fight in the corridors, a sniper kills Yang in his sleep. The agents hear the shots and open fire on the sniper, but the man manages to run away with no trouble. Yang's daughter chooses that moment to come to see her dad and passes out when she sees the body. During Yang's funeral, Young-do learns this Chief Lee Yang mentioned is head of the strategic unit at North Korea's Labor Party 35, and they have their flight logs, so they just need to compare them to the flight logs of their agents to find the mole. Ju Kyung informs Pyong-ho that former Director An was pushed out for not supporting the president's coup, but Jupiter funds were funneled to him and now he's under house arrest. The only visitor he's had so far is Young-do. Later, the new director tells Pyong-ho and Young-do to hurry up and wrap up their investigations before the president leaves on tour, or there'll be consequences. When they leave the director's office, the agents begin arguing over the suspicions they have of each other. Young-do thinks Pyong-ho is Dong Lim, and Pyong-ho thinks Young-do is a spy funder. They end up in a fistfight that makes them roll down the stairs. They only cut it off because people are watching. Afterward, Young-do has to deal with the surfacing memories of what he did as a soldier in the army, brought back up because everyone keeps mentioning his army buddy from Jupiter. That massacre had been ordered by the current president. Later, Young-do meets with the East Asia CIA director, who wants Young-do to drop his investigation and move to the USA because they already know about Operation Hunt Peter. Meanwhile, Ju Kyung takes the new intel to Pyong-ho's house, unaware that Jang, one of Young-do's men, is still following her. Ju Kyung has put her hands on some recordings of Young-do's conversations with Director An that reveal he has been working with Jupiter to start a revolution because he hates the president for what he made the army do and the suffering he's putting people through. Operation Hunt Peter is the mission to kill the president. Young-do has been behind it all along. However, Ju Kyung is still confused because Young-do's travel logs don't match the mole's. So she double-checks the logs and is shocked to discover that the mole known as Dong Lim is actually Pyong-ho. Now that she knows the truth, Pyong-ho goes after her, managing to finish her off after she fails a few shots. Then Pyong-ho uses a special phone to get in contact with his informants. Back to Young-do, he turns down the CIA director's offer, refusing to support a president that kills even little children. On his way out of the restaurant, he gets a call from Jang confirming Pyong-ho's indeed Dong Lim and that he's killed Ju Kyung. Now he's driving away to have a secret meeting. Young-do orders his agent to follow him until he can send backup. Moments later, Pyong-ho meets with an informant and hands him the president's revised itinerary. Once the meeting is over and Pyong-ho leaves, Jang follows him, but before he can arrest him, the two of them are ambushed and knocked out by a group of mysterious men. When Pyong-ho wakes up, he thinks he's been captured by Young-do's men because they keep hurting him for information. But after they kill Jang to make him talk, he discovers these are people working with the head of the North Korean Armed Forces Ministry, including Bo-san and the woman that sent the messages. It turns out Pyong-ho had been working with a group that wanted a peaceful revolution, but there had been some internal disputes and now the people in charge want an all-out war. Pyong-ho's new mission is to stay with the president during his tour to open the possibility for their snipers to kill him. But Pyong-ho refuses, not wanting to bring war and misery to his country. The woman beats Pyong-ho up for disobeying and is about to kill him when suddenly, Young-do and his men crash a car into the room and open fire on the enemy, saving Pyong-ho just in time. Before dying, the woman begins burning the papers, and when Young-do comes closer to try to save them, he discovers that Pyong-ho as Dong Lim has been vouching for a peaceful revolution. In the end, they both want the same thing, for their people to stop suffering. So to Pyong-ho's shock, Young-do burns the paper instead of saving them. He announces to his men that Jang was Dong Lim, and now he's dead. In exchange, he asks Pyong-ho to help him rescue the men arrested at Jupiter. Moments later, Young-do goes to see his army friend while he's being violently interrogated, and pretends he's there to ask some questions as well.